Before the establishment of the chemical industry, humanity used very exotic dyes. Some of them cost a fortune, and some caused strange epidemics of death. Scheele's green. This paint caused quite a stir in Europe in its time. It is even partly blamed for the illness and death of Napoleon. In the early 19th century, the German chemist Carl Scheele invented an amazingly beautiful emerald green dye. It immediately became a hit all across Europe, especially in Great Britain. Ladies sewed green dresses, hung green curtains, and decorated their walls with green wallpaper. A green dress is on display at the Shoe Museum in Bath for the Fashion Victims exhibition. The dress dates from around 1865 to 1870, and laboratory tests have confirmed that the green silk contains arsenic. However, soon these ladies began to find ulcers on their bodies after attending a ball in a green dress. Occupants of green rooms complained of nausea. The terrible death of a British craftswoman who made artificial flowers and used Scheele's green for the leaves finally alarmed the public. The girl fell ill with severe nausea, the whites of her eyes turned green, and she complained that the whole world was flooded with emerald green. The fact is that the beautiful green color was based on arsenic. At that time, it was already known that it should not be eaten. However, it was not yet known that even touching it or inhaling its vapors from heated painted walls was very harmful. By the way, there is a suggestion that in his later years, Napoleon was very fond of long baths, and the walls of his bathroom were painted with the fashionable Scheele's green. Cinnabar. Translated literally from Greek, cinnabar means dragon's blood. This dye was used even by the ancient Greeks. It was obtained by grinding the mineral of the same name. A fresh chip of the mineral is blood red, hence the name. Working in the mine was hard, and few workers lasted long. Mostly slaves worked in the mines. In those days, people rarely wondered why the miners died so quickly. The red paint was valued too highly to worry about production costs. Around the same time, cinnabar appeared in China. There, it quickly became one of the most popular colors for decorating dishes, painting houses and clothes, and making ink. To this day, China is associated with the color red by many of us. In China, the mineral powder was added to the resin of the sumac tree, which was poisonous. It was blamed for the ailments and illnesses of many artisans who worked with cinnabar. However, the truth was that cinnabar is 85% mercury. It begins to actively release from the paint when heated, as well as when treated painted surfaces with acidic liquids. The danger of mercury only became known to people in the 20th century, and even in the 70s, school children were allowed to touch mercury in chemistry lessons. Currently, cinnabar is not used. Ancient paintings and dishes made using cinnabar are stored in museums and, of course, are tried not to be heated. Undark, radium green. This story happened a little earlier, also in the USA. In 1908, a magical glowing green paint appeared on the market. Its composition included radium, which made the paint shimmer beautifully. It was mainly used in the factory that made watches and alarm clocks. The paint was used to cover the hands so they could be seen in the dark. This delicate work was performed by the Radium Girls. The young craftswomen were very happy about their new job and access to wonderful technology. They even often drew patterns on each other's faces and painted their lips with the glowing paint before going to dances or parties. It probably looked very fashionable and youthful. Everything was great until the 1920s, when the girls who had worked at the factory since its opening suddenly began to fall ill en masse. They developed ulcers near their mouths, their jaws rotted, and huge tumors formed. Radiation accumulated in their bodies, especially around the mouth, because many of them licked their brushes while working and also painted their lips with the ill-fated paint. Several girls died. In 1928, they filed a collective lawsuit against their employers for causing harm to life and health and won. After that, the glowing paint was banned at the plant. However, this was little consolation for the Radium Girls. Lead white. This pigment was also known since antiquity. But this paint became especially popular with Renaissance artists. No other white paint was as opaque and bright. However, it was precisely at that time that the belief became widespread that all artists were a little bit not of this world. When lead white began to be used for interior finishing, construction crews began to complain of headaches. As it turned out, Inhaling the fine paint particles as well as licking a brush with the Swedish lead white is extremely harmful to health. Accumulating in the body, lead destroys the liver and damages the brain. However, this was only realized in the 20th century. Since then, lead white has been banned for construction work and is only produced in limited quantities for artists, with strict instructions not to lick the brush. Gamboge, the resin of exotic Garcinia trees, unknowingly, has been used in Asia since time immemorial to make a very beautiful saffron mustard-colored dye. It was used to dye the robes of Buddhist monks. However, Asians, in general, were accustomed to the fact that the process of dyeing fabrics was very poisonous and were not surprised by the short life expectancy in the industry. In the 17th century, the paint from Cambodia reached Europe and became very popular with artists. It was used by Rembrandt and Turner. We don't know which painter once shared an interesting observation with his acquaintance, the English pharmacist James Morrison: just paint with gamboge, and you immediately want to go to the toilet. The pharmacist quickly realized that good money could be made from this. Laxatives had always been very popular in pharmacies. This is how Morrison's wonderful pills appeared, which soon revealed that in large doses, gamboge is fatal to humans. However, in small doses, the paint was considered acceptably toxic until 2005, when the paint manufacturer Winsor & Newton, a very traditional and colonial company, discontinued the sale of gamboge based on unknowingly.